Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. Normally, this time of year, it's nothing but basketball talk, but some big moves around the NFL today. We'll get into that momentarily, but first, I want to head out to the hotline, and it's time to talk some tournament basketball because we are right in the heart of that, and I want to welcome in from Bracket Matrix. I want to make sure I get it correct here. BracketMatrix.com. Tommy from @TBracketology on Twitter. Tommy, welcome to the program, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me on today.
I appreciate you joining us here, and cool to give you some credibility. 93% of the 21 projection exactly seeded or one seed off. So you guys are wide or tight over there with who's going to make the tournament and who is not.
Yep, we're locked in. This is truly the best time of year coming down the home stretch.
It certainly is. Now, last night, of course, you hear so much about the buzzer beaters and the Cinderellas and everything in March. The Furman Paladins from right here in the great state of South Carolina had their hearts broken last night. And I got to tell you, man, just this call, it really does kick off the season.
Bothwell drives all the way, and his layup is good. With 4.3 seconds left, David Jean-Baptiste drives, goes up, three-pointer on the way. Got it! He hit it! David Jean-Baptiste, three at the buzzer. Bucks win it. Capping the 6-year career. Now they're going to look at the screen. Jean-Baptiste, I think it's good. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, there you go. From UT Chattanooga's home call there. Man, you watch that and it just gets you all warm and fuzzy inside, right?
Yeah, that gets you really excited. I got to say my reaction was pretty similar to that announcer there that when he goes, it went in. I got off my couch, was jumping around. This is crazy. I don't even have a dog in the fight between Furman and Chattanooga, but that was an incredible game. You do got to feel for Furman. I mean, they hit a step back three to get it to overtime and a great contested layup to take the lead there. But what a shot. I mean, this is what we live for in March Madness, and the week leading up to it, it was absolutely incredible.
All right, so let's talk about some of the big dogs. We'll start with the ACC. Their tournament tips off today. Does it look like the ACC, which is normally they pride themselves on being the cream of the crop when it comes to basketball, but they look like they're going to be about a 5-bid conference. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's really looking like it's going to be 5 teams. I mean, you've got a team like Duke that's a national championship contender, and they're for sure a lock. And North Carolina locked themselves in as well after that great performance last weekend against that team in Duke. So those teams for sure are in. And then you're looking at Miami, Notre Dame, and Wake Forest that should feel like they're in a decent position. I mean, Wake Forest, with their draw in the ACC tournament, they're going to have a game against Pittsburgh or Boston College for their first game. That's probably a game you want to win if you're Wake Forest, just to kind of secure the bid. But it really is looking like 5 unless Virginia Tech or Virginia goes on an unforeseen run here.
Do you have a dark horse in that tournament like maybe a Virginia Tech, or do you think that maybe Wake Forest has that spotlight?
I think Wake Forest is a decent pick. Alondas Williams is an absolute star. And, this time of year, those kind of players can really take over. But I really like Miami. I mean, that's going to be an interesting test if it is Miami versus Wake Forest, 2 teams kind of seated near each other around the 10 to 11 line right now. But Miami's been in some weird games. They had a nice comeback against Syracuse last weekend. They had a heartbreaker with Virginia Tech, kind of been all over the place. But they've been in a lot of weird situations late. And I could see if they get it close with Duke, if that is the semifinal matchup, I could see them winning this tournament if they get hot.
All right, now the SEC starts tomorrow, and this is a stacked conference this year. I mean, how many teams could you make an argument for that, hey, they should be in the tournament?
Right now, it's a guaranteed 6. There's 6 locks. You have those big boys like Kentucky, Auburn, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, and Alabama. There's no argument there. Those teams are in. And then there's really 2 to 4 others that are very close and in the mix. I mean, Florida and Texas A&M, at least on our bubble, are relatively close in that first 4 out, next 4 out. And funny enough, they play each other in the second round in kind of a de facto elimination game. So that should be a lot of fun. And then I'm not quite ruling out yet South Carolina or Mississippi State. It's going to take a lot. They probably are going to need to at least make the SEC championship game, but there's enough there where they should still be in the mix. I don't think it's a guarantee they have to win the conference tournament there, but they're going to need to go deep for sure.
All right. So do you have that team that could shock some folks and maybe make the SEC final that is outside of the top 4 seeds?
I mean, the team, if you're going to go outside the top 4, the team to me that just, they can be great and they can be a little bit questionable sometimes is Alabama. I mean, they are talented enough 100% to win this tournament in Tampa, Florida. I absolutely believe that. But there are also moments where you watch Alabama basketball and you go, they could potentially lose to a Vanderbilt in the second round. So that one's tough, but they're talented enough. They have the players, the shooters, the style of play with putting up a lot of 3-point shots that they could definitely do it. If you want to look outside of the top 6 that are the locks, I'd say Texas A&M. They're playing the best basketball of those teams, probably seeded 7-14, and they know that they're close. And getting a win over Florida and then a win over Auburn, and they're really right in the mix. So those would be really the 2 for me. That's kind of the dark horses there.
All right, so let's expand a little bit from the ACC and the SEC. Is this finally the year for Gonzaga? Is this when they finally put it to bed and actually take home that national title?
That is a fantastic question, man. There are moments for me when I watch Gonzaga and I go, this has to be. But that's how I felt all last year too. They were who I had winning it. I mean, Baylor was fantastic all year, but I did not see Baylor completely dismantling them like they did last year. But there are also those moments, especially recently and they're going to play St. Mary's again tonight, but when they played St. Mary's recently, where you go, there's ways to shut this team down. And there's, like you said, with the SEC or even with other conferences like the Big 12 or the Big East, Big 10, there's so many good teams and there's so much parity in the league this year. If I was going to say Gonzaga or the field, right now I'd say the field. I think someone else wins the national title.
They're the most intriguing team to me because Alabama beat them at the beginning of the season, and they basically beat them with just having better athletes. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it just seemed like Alabama was a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, and they were able to stretch the floor more, and that gave Gonzaga problems.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a few teams that have done it. So that's where it gets interesting. I think it's going to come down to the draw. You know, who are the 4 and 5 seeds? I mean, Gonzaga is going to be a lock for a 1 seed, whether or not they win the tournament final tonight. That'll be a 1 seed. But who are those 4 and 5 seeds in their region? Who are the 2 and 3s, or another team that goes on a run? That's really what's going to determine it. Like you said, a team that's got a plethora of athletes, like Alabama did this year, or like Baylor last year. Those are the kind of teams that can give them problems, and that's when you might be a little bit questionable if they can make a Final Four or win the national championship.
All right, so let's look at from your number 1 seeds, and of course, you can find all of this information at bracketmatrix.com or just follow at tbracketology on Twitter. I mean, you've got the 4 seeds. You mentioned Gonzaga and Baylor, right? And then you like Arizona and Auburn as well, right?
Yep, that would be correct. And it's the 1 seed picture is definitely starting to come a lot clearer, especially after Duke lost last weekend at home to North Carolina. It's really 6 teams for 4 spots. And the way I see it, Gonzaga is a lock for a 1 seed. Arizona out in the Pac-12, they're pretty much second in most metrics you look at. They have enough wins to justify that. It would take them getting eliminated probably their first game of the Pac-12 tournament not to have it. So those 2 are going to be 1 seeds. Then you have Baylor and Kansas from the Big 12, and you have Auburn and Kentucky from the SEC. And it's not quite as simple to say as whatever one of those 2 teams goes farther in their respective conference tournaments going to get the 1 seed, but it very well could, especially with the argument between Auburn and Kentucky. If they meet in the SEC championship game and Kentucky dominates Auburn or even just wins, very, very possible for Kentucky to get it. But right now it would look like Gonzaga, Arizona, Baylor, and Auburn as of today.
Could you make an argument for Duke as a number 1 seed if they win the ACC tournament and wrap that up? Could you make that an argument that they should be a number 1 seed over, say, a Gonzaga if Gonzaga loses to St. Mary's tonight?
I think if Duke, I think you could also throw Villanova into the same kind of hypothetical if Villanova wins the Big East. I think if Duke or Villanova win their conference tournament, they're going to be in the discussion. The committee is going to sit there on Saturday night, Sunday morning, and really compare the resumes of those 2 to a Gonzaga, to an Arizona, to a Big 12 and SEC champion. But for me, when Duke has a couple losses that you scratch your head at, and Gonzaga losing on a neutral floor to St. Mary's when they're number one in the net today, they're number one across most metrics. I don't see them doing it. It's certainly possible. I think, Duke definitely has to win the ACC tournament to have that chance, but likely Duke and Villanova are going to find themselves on the 2 line if they win their conference tournament.
A question from online. Brandon asked, if Clemson won the ACC tournament, which is far-fetched to say the least, what seed do you think they would take home? I think they would be probably in that 12-5 matchup, one of the extras. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's very likely going to be a 12 seed. It's a good example of that would be what we saw last year with Georgetown and Oregon State, 2 teams in the Big East and Pac-12 that weren't really expected to go on the run and end up winning the conference tournament, and they both ended up as 12 seeds. So it's very likely that with the overall records, the wins that a lot of those teams have in the 11 seed range, I don't know if Clemson gets there. If you look at their run, they're going to have a win over NC State, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame. Those aren't going to move the needle enough to get them to an 11 seed, even once they beat, let's say, a North Carolina and a Duke. It's looking like probably the top 12 seed, but very well so would be a 12.
All right, so there are games tonight where we're going to crown some automatic qualifiers, but some at-large spots could go away if some of these teams lose, right? Is there a possibility that some of these top seeds that are playing tonight could fall and burst the bubble for some of the at-large teams?
I don't see a lot of these teams playing today making the NCAA tournament if they don't win. The one that is interesting to me, and it will be, if they lose tonight, it will definitely be a lot of work over the rest of the week to see if they have a shot, is South Dakota State in the Summit League.
Right.
They've won something like 18 straight. That's something that's definitely on the committee's mind. They've played a couple teams tight, but they don't have any real quality wins. I think their best win on the season is Stephen F. Austin, who, no discredit to them. That's a good basketball team, but that doesn't really register as a quality win. So that's one for me that I think the committee would take a hard look at because of the consistency, because of the fact that they're close to, if not going to, set a record for best 3-point percentage ever in the season. They're shooting over 45% from 3 as a team. So, and that's a team, if they win tonight, that's a team to look out for as a 12 seed and to definitely beat a 5 and could even get to a Sweet 16 in South Dakota State. But that's the only one that I could see them looking at. Otherwise, it feels like for those other 5 that aren't the WCC tonight, those conference championships, the winner is in, the loser's likely out. And then Gonzaga and St. Mary's are both 100% locks as of today in the West Coast Conference. All
right, Tommy from bracketmatrix.com joins us. And, I have to ask you for your team that is already in the mix that could possibly win a couple of games. Lots of folks last night fell in love with UT Chattanooga. I think people should watch out for Murray State in the Ohio Valley. Do you have a quote-unquote sleeper pick that could shock some folks in the first round of the tournament?
Yeah, there's definitely I think this year we're going to see a lot of teams shock people in the first round. The team I mentioned, South Dakota State, is a good one to look out for just because of how good they are from 3. It's insane. They have 3, 4, 5 guys that shoot over 40% from 3. That's unheard of. Chattanooga's a good pick, but a couple teams that could make a run beyond the first game that I'm really starting to like is a Memphis. They're starting to get hot. They played Houston very well last Sunday. And an interesting thing about them is when you look at the players that Memphis has versus players that they're going to meet in the second round, Sweet 16, et cetera, if they make it there, they can match up with almost anybody. They've got the size. They've got the athletes. They have good shooters. And they're playing good basketball down the stretch since Amani Bates stepped away from the team. So I think that's one to look out for. And then truly any of the teams in the Mountain West. Love that league this year. It's been super competitive. Might be the best year the Mountain West ever had, but especially looking at Colorado State and Boise State. Those two are battle tested. They've proven themselves throughout the year, finishing first and second in that league. And they're going to be seated somewhere in that 6 to 8 seed range probably, and could give a 1 or a 2 seed in the second round a really tough matchup that could potentially find themselves in the Sweet 16.
All right, Tommy, tell folks where they can find your stuff, man, because you guys get it right. And it's amazing the percentage that you have as far as where teams end up and where they're seated. Tell folks where they can read more of your stuff.
Yep, absolutely. So if you're on Twitter, you can find us at Bracketology, or you can also find our stuff as well online. So 2 different websites for you. You can find it at bracketmatrix.com as was mentioned before, but we also have our own website, T3 bracketology.com. So you can find it there too. If you don't have Twitter, I want to go directly to the website. So really appreciate the time today.
Hey, Tommy, appreciate it, man. We may have you back on in the future as we get the brackets sorted out.
Absolutely. Would love it.
Thank you, man. Have a good
Appreciate
day.
it, man.
All right, there you go. Hey, get your NCAA hoops fix right there. Some of the comments that are out there. I agree with Big Barney Ross. You better watch out for Iona. Yeah, Rick Pitino, he's been up there for over a year and a half now. I mean, I'm sure he's figured out where the strippers are and how to hide that stuff. Iona's probably going to be pretty good. They went toe-to-toe with Alabama last year and almost beat them with basically I don't know, a C squad from the intramural staff. Iona may be all right. Papa B says, take the 3-point defending teams. That's true. Now, here's the big thing, and I'm going to give you the little secret here when I put a bracket together. My brackets generally finish pretty good. I look at teams and I think who has got senior leaders in the backcourt. That's kind of the way it works. And we'll give you an example. South Carolina, when they won, went to the Final Four. How did they do it? Yes, they had the big man in the middle, but Darius Thornwell in the backcourt, upperclassmen. That's kind of the steadying thing that you need. If you have a couple of guys in the backcourt that can do some things for you, it ends up making your life a little bit easier in the NCAA tournament. 803-978-1832. Brandon says, hey, do I remember when the Tornadoes hit the Georgia Dome during the SEC tournament? They had to move over to Georgia Tech to finish it. Yeah, that's true. That is true. I think Georgia ended up winning that year, and they weren't very good. So there's that. All right, we've got NFL stuff we're going to get into where quarterbacks are moving around. We can talk about that when we come back. Appreciate Tommy from bracketmatrix.com joining us here. And go and check out their stuff. I know everybody loves Joe Lunardi, but you ever notice Joe Lunardi doesn't put his numbers out there because he's not as close as these guys. So go and check them out, bracketmatrix.com, if you want to follow along with the way the bracket is setting up. We'll also do a scoreboard update when we come back. All of that and more for you. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course. We're brought to you by MazdaofColumbia.com. That's a pretty impressive thing. Now, the Big Barney Ross, if you're drunk and you're peeing, now if you try to pee and write it in Chinese, that is a true test of the drunken individual. Especially if you're doing it in the snow. Good point there, Papa B. Good point. Yeah, I like the conference that Gonzaga's in with St. Mary's, man. They're pretty good. It wouldn't shock me if St. Mary's won tonight. Yeah, I'm going to comment on that in a minute there, Jimmy. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, all those people are jerks. I can't use the word. See, Big Barney Ross is trying to get me to curse on the air today, and I will not do it, sir. You will not lead me down that road. I will not do that, although I want to. That comment that Big Barney Ross made is enough. Killing me. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 803-978-1832. If you want to talk some basketball, be sure to go to bracketmatrix.com and check out their stuff because it is solid if you are into that stuff. Now, granted, you'll go to other radio stations and stuff and they'll tell you, oh, this guy's great, that guy's great. Look, all you got to do is look at the numbers they've got out there. The people that I try to bring on the show know what the hell they're talking about. So there's that. Okay? Now, let's move along here. Obviously, we'll take your calls on hoops, but if you want, we can get into the NFL. And the reason why I want to do this is because two franchise quarterbacks are on the move. I'm going to start with Seattle, who last week at the NFL Combine, Coach Pete Carroll said they had no intention of trading Russell Wilson. Okay? And all right, when you hear that, though, it's like, okay. But here's what Denver gave up to get Russell Wilson, who is going to go from, obviously, Seattle to Denver. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's go out to the phones first. 803-978-1832. Welcome into the program. Good afternoon.
Hey, it's Big Barney Ross. I wanted to talk Aaron Rodgers for a minute. He decided to go green, didn't
yeah.
he?
Hey, I'm going to get a $200 million deal, and I'm 37 years old. I mean, where the hell else was he going to go?
Well, let me see. You go from weed to looking like the Okie from Muskogee to $200 million. I want to know, and then you're a baseball fan. Now, Rodgers will probably play, 17 games a season. If he's lucky, maybe 18 Pro Bowl, but 17, if he goes all the way. But baseball now, Freddie Freeman turned down $130 million. He wanted $150 for 5 years, and he's going to play 162 games a year. And you really don't hit the quarterback anymore like you used to. Now, take Acuna for Atlanta. He's getting belted, with 100-mile-an-hour pitches. Do you think they have kind of misallocated funds here? Wouldn't that baseball player get to $200 million where he's playing all them games day in and day out? And, you don't want to stand on the tracks and get run over by Pujols. I mean, you want to take a Nolan Ryan heater off the hip that's connected to the shin bone, that's connected to the hospital bill. How do you feel about the way they're paying these athletes now? And I'll get off here and listen to what you got to say.
Appreciate it, man. You're always welcome to call the program. First of all, I'm in the camp of, I think they pay athletes way too much money. Okay? Now, but I'm also in the camp of, if the economy is there for it, then who am I to judge? But in the grand scheme of things, our society is whacked in what we pay people. Let's just say on the sports front, firefighters, cops, and educators should be the top funded folks on the planet. All right, let me put that out there first. But on the sports front, it's amazing to me that in sports like the UFC, where you can fight maybe twice a year, the payouts they get are not very good. Now, granted, some of these guys, Conor McGregor and guys like that, they're going to get paid. But the reality is a lot of these guys don't get paid a lot of money. You go and fight twice, and they're not getting paid, in my opinion, what it's worth. But they sign their own deal, so I'm up for that. Now, as far as baseball and football goes, there's a reason we have a strike right now. I completely blame. I don't like the idea of the millionaires fighting the billionaires. I get that. But on this front, if you look at what the owners have done, I'm going to break it down for you. Shout out to my buddy from the peskypole.net, Mike Dobreski, for giving me this info. Basically, they're going to wait until April 1st, accept whatever the players come. The owners will accept the players' deal on April the 1st. They're not going to pay them for their back salary. This has all been up and down from a year or two ago. They knew what they were going to do. The biggest problem that we have is small market teams who get $100 million from television, and they get a $40 million contract. their $40 million payroll, and then they get another $40 million from teams that go over the cap, okay? The Yankees, the Red Sox, etc. So small market teams are essentially a big part of this. I mean, I think that the owners of the Yankees and the Red Sox and even the Atlanta Braves want to get out there on the field because they're going to make more money that way. But smaller market teams like the Orioles, etc., are kind of the problem. So we'll see how that works out. But a great question there from Big Barney Ross. As far as Aaron Rodgers, look, the guy won the MVP, 2 times in a row? So, yeah, he should be, in my opinion, one of the top paid players in the NFL. But let's be honest. I'm a Packers fan, and I think he's a diva. He hasn't been right since he got with Danica Patrick. And I stand by that. I don't know what she did to him. Maybe it's some of the yoga sessions and stuff that they did. I don't know. But you listen to him talk, and he's a bright guy. He's very snarky. But he just, if he's not your quarterback, you just don't like him. You just don't like him. But he gets the job done on the field. He really, really does. So, yeah, the Packers signed him up for 4 seasons at essentially it's a $200 million contract. I don't know the guarantees on it, but the reality is that it comes back down to, can the guy still play? And right now he's at a very, very high level. And see, here's the cool part for Green Bay fans. Now you're looking at Devontae Adams, who is quite possibly one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's going to look at it from a perspective of, I've got the chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. I'm probably going to sign on there. Maybe I won't do the 4 years. Maybe I'll do 2. Something like that, just so he can play with Aaron Rodgers. I think that's definitely out there. Now, the Packers still have work to do. And the reality is this, the NFL salary cap is like $208 million, something like that. I think that was the total that it came out with yesterday. If you're giving Rodgers, and I haven't seen the deal, but if you're giving him $40 million of it, some cuts are going to have to be made somewhere. So there's my thing on that. Now, getting back to the stuff with the Seahawks, they're getting plenty in return for Russell Wilson. They will get a pair of first-round picks, a pair of second-round picks, and 3 players to Seattle as part of the deal. Multiple reports indicate that the Broncos will also send a 4th-round pick to the Seahawks, and Seattle will send Denver a 5th-round pick. Now, that's obviously just for salary purposes. The 3 players heading from the Broncos to the Seahawks are quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, and defensive lineman Shelby Harris. The idea, according to Pro Football Talk, is that Lock would be a bridge quarterback, or they could use all the picks they received to target a veteran. A 2nd-round pick in 2019, Lock is an 8-13 and 21 starts for the Broncos. So I don't know if he's going to be the guy that's going to go out and do things for you or not, but a huge deal for the Broncos, who Russell Wilson is a heck of a quarterback. I can't remember exactly how old Russell Wilson is, but here's the big thing with him. He makes plays with his feet. And when you make plays with your feet, sometimes those quarterbacks can have some issues later on. Let's go back out to the phones and welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
How's it going, Rob? Bluegrass Sports Media.
Hello, sir.
How's it going? Have you heard, I don't know if you've talked to about it yet. Have you heard about the Calvin Ridley story?
Yeah, I have heard about the Calvin Ridley story. We talked about it yesterday. Someone needs to take Calvin Ridley's Twitter account away from him. I don't know. I mean, he's tweeting out all this stuff. I think the best tweet, and shout out to, who was it? Oh, man. Someone in the chat room did. I can't remember who it was. But it was like, yeah, hey, guess what? Now I'll just be healthy if I wait out a year. And then it's like, I only bet $1,500. Sir, shut up. What are you doing on Twitter? I mean, you just got suspended. You should say, I'm sorry. I got myself caught up in some things. I support the Atlanta Falcons, and boom, go. That's what he should be doing, but he's got to run his mouth. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. I mean, why? You have to know that's not allowed, and even if that makes it even worse if it's only $1,500. You just lost a full season of pay for $1,500. It's crazy.
Yeah, $11 million is what he the $11 million is what he got, is what it's going to cost him to, for $1,500. So yeah, you and I agree on that.
That's crazy. As far as Big Barney Ross earlier, I have to disagree with him. He brought up the whole game system and the baseball players not getting paid as much as the football players anymore because they play more games. Well, the difference is two things. One, in football, they don't get hit as much as they did back in like 2006 in that era, but they're still getting hit by 260-pound, 300-pound defensive linemen. Two, the NFL is the most popular sport in the United States. They bring in the most money. That's why they get paid the most.
Yeah, and I understand the supply and demand portion of it. I get that. But, I mean, I don't think people understand. And what Big Barney Ross said is correct. It's a grind playing 162 games. I mean, you basically play 6 days a week is what it boils down to. And it is a grind on your body. It really is.
I'm sure it is. But I don't think it would be as much a physical grind as getting hit for 3 hours straight on a Sunday by a professional athlete.
Okay. I mean, that's however you look at it. I mean, and some people prefer football. I get it. I mean, there's more money there. I completely understand that. Anything else you got for the program?
Nope, that's it. Congratulations to Rick Barnes for winning Coach of the Year.
All right, buddy. Good. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Right. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Justin, what's up, my friend? Appreciate you, man. Yeah, that's true. You are right about that. What do you mean about adjusting my hats? Yeah, I did have to adjust. I mean, look, I'm not ashamed of the fact that I'm bald. I'm cool with it. The Gamecock baseball team, they may get it right at the end of the year. I don't know. Who knows at this juncture? (803-978-1832), 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Some of the comments from the folks in the chat room, who we appreciate, by the way. The chat room is a huge part of this show. I want to, like Lawton Swan used to do this. Of course, he hosts Clemson Sports Talk. We used to have like chat points I should start giving out chat points for some of the folks that are in the chat room every day, like Bible Belt Beauties and Big Barney Ross and Brandon and Jimmy and Papa and all those guys who are here every single day bringing some of their comments to the show. It makes the show better. You should follow along. Go to the Fox Sports Radio Facebook page, and you could be a part of the program there as well. If you don't want to call up and step into the arena, but you want to have a voice on the show, we make it very easy for you. Go and follow me on Twitter at @RobSoundsGood. You can also chat in the chat room. Simple as that. Watch the show online, however you want to do it. Try to make the program very, very easy for everyone to enjoy. The podcast is up every day at 5 o'clock. Look, the podcast is awesome because you can listen on demand. It's DVR on the radio. Listen whenever you want. So there's that. All right. So I got to go with Jimmy's comment here. How many more years can Aaron Rodgers play? He's 38 years old. You know, as a Packers fan, I'm hoping 4 years. I don't know. Justin says, do I think Dabo Swinney will have his own restaurant one day in Clemson? I don't know. I don't know if Dabo Swinney wants to do that. What's Dabo Swinney going to sell in his restaurant? I mean, you have to have a niche, in my opinion, for a restaurant. I don't know what Dabo Swinney's going to sell. So, I mean, he may not want to do that. I think Dabo Swinney just wants to coach. We shall see. Brandon says Tom Brady played until 44. You know, that's a very valid statement, but Tom Brady spent, and if you watch anything about Tom Brady, his fitness routine and what he eats is down to an absolute science. So yeah, and you know, Aaron Rodgers is probably that way too. He looks like he's in great shape, but you know what? It's just one hit. One good hit can knock you into next month, and maybe they don't want to deal with that. So who knows at this point? Who really, really knows? I want to relive something really quick here before we go to our next break. Last night, I think I played this in the open, but I tell you what, it makes me very happy to have college basketball and the feel of everyone in the stands. And it's like we're coming out of the pandemic, and it just seems like sports is kind of getting back to normal. This last night in the SoCon tournament final, the last couple of seconds there, as UT Chattanooga broke Furman's heart.
Bothwell drives all the way, and his layup is good. With 4.3 seconds left, David Jean-Baptiste drives, goes up, three-pointer on the way, got it! He hit it! David Jean-Baptiste, three at the buzzer, Bucks win it! Capping the 6-year career. Now they're going to look at the screen. Jean-Baptiste, I think it's good. It's good. It's good. Knox, get the heroics from David Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah, there you go. Man, I tell you what, that call last night, and by the way, if you're following several different games at once, which is kind of the way things go right now, I mean, following that game, especially on Twitter, was just fun. People losing their minds over that shot. I mean, and it was outstanding. By the way, we're brought to you by Mazda of Columbia. Go and see my friend Greg Hood. Greg Hood, he will have a perfect bracket in the NCAA tournament because he's a smart guy. Yeah, I'm going to bring Greg in to pick a bracket. Watch. Mazda of Columbia, MazdaofColumbia.com. If you need a new car, that is the place to go. I took my car to get serviced there, and it was the easiest thing ever. Hey, here's your oil change. Here's a couple things that are wrong with your car. Thank you. It's kind of how that worked. So, yeah, Mazda of Columbia, MazdaofColumbia.com. Justin says, I feel bad for Furman basketball. It's a tough one. Yeah, it is. And it's looking more and more. The College of Charleston lost last night in the CAA semifinals. So, are we going to have a team from the Palmetto State in the NCAA tournament? I don't think so. I don't know. When we get this far, though, there are tons of people that are fans of, say, South Carolina basketball, but then they're going to look at it from a perspective of, well, I got to cheer for somebody in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, I'm not necessarily doing all that. But I know so many North Carolina fans that will go and be Gamecock basketball fans too. I don't know how you do it. Do you have a other team that you support? Meaning you hope that this team wins if your team isn't in the tournament. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832. Do you have your closet team? Your team that you're like, yeah, you know what? I like that team. And, you know, my team's not in it because they're not a team that gets into the tournament, but I like them a lot. I think there's a good section of people that are like that. And a lot of them seem to be for North Carolina. A lot of Duke fans, too. A lot of Duke fans. It's kind of interesting for folks like Justin, who's an Alabama fan, who's upset with the way the Crimson Tide have played. Here's the thing. Alabama's a good team. Tommy from bracketmatrix.com was on with us earlier, and he talked about he thinks that Alabama's the team that could be the dark horse to win the SEC, and he's right. They could blow you out. Just saying. Big Barney Ross with a good comment here. There is no I in band. It takes a group to play on the wagon. Good point, sir. Good point. Anyway, we'll take calls on your NCAA tournament team that you root for when your team is out. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I don't know why Justin's upset. Alabama's going to make the tournament. I don't know. Maybe he expects a higher seed. More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, y'all are missing Rick Stansberry, right? Adam Kennedy at UAB, you know, maybe it's just me. I don't like root for the Blue Bloods. I don't, you know, but I will. Clemson's never there. So it's kind of like, ugh. And when they get there, they play like hot dog water. So with that, I'm always with the team that I'll cheer for Murray State because I almost went to college there. After that, it's like, I'll pick some team to do well. Big Barney Ross, you kill me, man. You're probably one of those guys that sits like at half court and expects Kentucky to win by 70. Would not surprise me. I love the Cinderella stories at the tournament. I remember the year that, what was it? George Mason went to the Final Four and everybody was like, with them. Yeah, if that's the case, your liver's going to be pickled by Tuesday, by late Thursday night. Yeah, that was a great run with Valparaiso. I remember the shot with where Duke beat Kentucky. I still don't like Christian Laettner. I lived in Kentucky when Jamal Mashburn and Travis Ford and all those guys were up there. And of course, you know, growing up, it's like, wow, they're so great. Travis Ford was like shot, I think once his senior year, he shot 94% from the line or something like that. Yeah, those were some good Kentucky teams. Rick Pitino turning the dials. They were solid. Well, welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today as we roll along. Shout out to Tommy from bracketmatrix.com. Go and follow them They've got great stuff as far as if you want to know how the bracket is going to set up. They were, 93% correct in last year's bracket. So, yeah, go and check them out. Couple of comments. Justin says, Alabama basketball is hard to watch every time I see them play. They can't even drive in for a bucket. It's jack up a three and turnovers. But that's the way Nate Oates, gets them to play. They don't really have anybody that can drive to the basket. He's got a team of guards, basically, that can't really take you off the dribble, but they can shoot the three. He's got that, and they're doing the best they can with it. Are they going to turn the ball over? Yeah. But you know what? They're one of those teams that when they're on, stand by, but live by the three, die by the three, right? Yep. That's kind of the way that works. I think that Alabama's a team that could make the Sweet 16. They could make the Elite Eight. They could also lose in the first round of the tournament. If you're a fan, you're like, yay, great. You don't have any clue. Would anybody be shocked if Alabama won the SEC championship? I wouldn't. They've already beat the number one team in the country. They've got the players to do it. Thing with them is don't turn the ball over, and they got to shoot the ball well. They're going to get you one way or another. When they're not shooting the ball well, though, they can stink it up. They really can. But they're so athletic, they can overcome a great bit of it. So there's that. Let's give you some scores updates really quick here, because there are tournament games going on right now. In the ACC, first round action, Boston College is beating the snot out of Pittsburgh, 64-42. About 4 minutes left. 4:30 today is supposed to be a tip-off with NC State and Clemson. Tigers coming in, winning. They've won 4 straight games. They are a 5-point favorite in this matchup over an NC State team they lost to in Raleigh. The Wolfpack are 11-20 on the season. Some other games today, the Jacksonville and Bellarmine play in the Atlantic Sun Championship final. Bellarmine is a 2.5-point favorite. Wagner and Bryant will play for the Northeast Conference final. Bryant's a 3-point favorite in that matchup. Delaware and UNC Wilmington play in the CAA Championship. Delaware's a 2.5-point favorite. Go with the Hens. I like the Hens a lot. Wright State and Northern Kentucky is a pick'em, and that is in the Horizon League Championship final. Another ACC matchup tonight, 2 12-win teams, Georgia Tech and Louisville. Man, remember the days when Georgia Tech and Louisville were actually pretty good? Now they're just not very good at all. Not very good at all. So 2 teams that are Louisville's a 1.5-point favorite, and they are now terrible. I mean, you lose Rick Pitino, you get away from the dancers and everything else. Your talent level kind of goes down. St. Mary's and Gonzaga tonight. Gonzaga's a 12.5-point favorite over St. Mary's. Give me St. Mary's and the points. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if St. Mary's pulled out a win there. North Dakota State and South Dakota State, are they battling for the Dakotas? Shouldn't they just call themselves Dakota? I mean, I guess, is it South Dakota that has Mount Rushmore? I guess that's the big thing for the Dakotas there. As South Dakota State is a 6-point favorite in that matchup tonight. And that is the team that will win the Summit League Championship. So we're crowning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 champions tonight. So there you go with that. NCAA women's tournament still moving through there too. I'm going to give you all the scores on that because there's a lot of those. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I'm reading Big Barney Ross's comment dry here. Louisville established dominance tonight on the first game of the tournament by yawning. Thank you, sir. Justin says it depends on which Alabama team shows up. The one we saw the last 2 games or the one we saw against Gonzaga and Baylor. Yeah. Brandon says the winner of the South Carolina-Mississippi State game gets Tennessee on Friday. Remember, the Gamecocks and Bulldogs split this season, winning by double digits on their home court. Now, I don't know how that matchup's going to go in Tampa. I don't know. South Carolina's a 500 team in conference. They could go out and win that game. Who knows? I don't like their matchup, though, with Tennessee. I think Tennessee's got their number, and they're another team that could win the SEC championship. They really could. They're not that far off, to be completely honest with you. 803-978-1832. B. Bean asks, will Rick Pitino be the next head coach at Maryland? Yeah, I think Pitino wants to coach somewhere. He's got a good gig there at Iona, though. Took him to the tournament in his first season, and they're going to go to the tournament again this year, I would think. Yeah, Iona may be in the mix. Who knows? I think Iona's in the mix. I got to check out bracketmatrix.com. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, he may end up somewhere. Look, there may be some openings that come up. Maybe maybe they move on from Georgia Tech. Maybe they move on. There are other jobs that are out there that he may have the opportunity to go and grab. Does he want to go back to the SEC? He may go, like Georgia Tech would be a great job for him because he could stick it to Louisville, which deep down, that's what he wants to do. There's no excuse for not being able to recruit at Georgia Tech, by the way. You should be able to get a good team in Atlanta. I don't understand why Georgia Tech always sucks pretty much, or here lately in football and in basketball. They should be able to recruit and get some guys. 803-978-1832. Big Barney Ross says every time Calipari walks on the court, you can hear him yell, "You my boy, Blue." He also says Pitino needs to coach at Cincinnati. The work release program for the jail is phenomenal. Now. Coach Pitino's a good coach. He's had issues, though, wherever he went. So there's that. Tomorrow on the program, we'll give you updates on what happened with Clemson in the ACC tournament as they tip off at 4:30 today with NC State. You would think that they are a team that should be with it. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. If you want to join us here on the actually, I'm about out of time. Imagine that. Tomorrow on the program, we'll break down some more tournament stuff, as it is the best time of the year if you're a college basketball fan. And let me tell you something. I'll keep this really close for the folks that are here that are like, why isn't he talking about football? Because the way this works, ladies and gentlemen, is once we get through the NCAA tournament, we have spring practice. Yes, we're going to have spring practice and spring games and all kind of stuff that's going to go on there. And the transfer portal is going to heat up because there's going to be folks that are looking at it from this perspective. Man, I thought I was going to be a first string guy, but they may be a second string. I'm going to transfer. Okay. Transfer portal is going to be hot, smoking hot as we move along here. So we're going to have that to cleanse our palate with some football stuff. In addition to that, we got the NFL draft coming up. College baseball is getting in full swing too. But it all comes back down to July when talking season starts. SEC Media Days and all of that will be in the mix here on the rundown. As we'll go to ACC kickoff because it's closer. I don't know. We'll see. Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk is next. He's the czar of Clemson Sports. Follow him on Twitter at Clemson Sports. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for listening to the rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Hey, Jay, I gave Kirby Smart his credit. Now he's got to keep them from being a one-hit wonder. I said he's a good coach. I wouldn't want him coaching my team, but he's a good coach. Anyway, you guys have a great day. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you later on.